Professor Hamida Naeem of Kashmir University is among those who attended 5 seminars. Welcome. Shabnam Lone, Supreme Court lawyer, joining us from Srinagar. Welcome, Shabnam. Maruf is back with us tonight. Thank you, Maruf. And my first question is to Praveen Swami, Associate Editor of The Hindu. Praveen, you've seen the story and seen some of the details and the reactions which have come out. Now, a lot of people, there are two reactions we've seen. One reaction is, so what? What's wrong? This is just another forum among many forums we attend. Second argument is, we didn't know, we have no idea if he's an ISI man. Is there something more than the reactions that we get here so far? Praveen?
The first argument I totally agree with. Go to any conference you like. Have any opinion you like. Dr. Hamida Naeem may have one opinion, Maruf Raza may have another, I may have a third. We're all entitled to whatever platform we choose to say whatever we may or may not wish. As far as that goes, absolutely fine. But that isn't the allegation here. The allegation is that intelligence service responsible for the death of thousands of people in Jammu and Kashmir and elsewhere paid money to organize these things. And that means there's at least a public interest in knowing precisely what the people who attended these conferences received for their participation. Did they receive air tickets? What kind of hospitality did they receive? What kind of honoraria? That's not to attribute a motive to them, but merely to give the public the right to know what was, what their relationship with this organization was. The Kashmiri American Council also not only organized conferences, but paid for various activists to travel to various international fora. It paid for various kinds of research into Kashmir. I think it's not unreasonable to ask for some transparency in this. After all, for years, if a politician, if an elected politician had just been, outed for accepting ISI money for going on trips like this, there'd have been a God Almighty ruckus about it. We'll all have been screaming. And I think that journalists, scholars, commentators should hold themselves up to this elementary standard of accountability.
Professor Hamida Naeem, are you embarrassed about knowing now? I mean, has there been some sense of embarrassment now that you know that this was funded by the ISI?
Not at all, because I was actually concerned about what Faisal was doing through these conferences. I have seen him actually indulging in dialogic rather than in polemic conferences, which actually brought about thaw in the relationships between Indians and Pakistani civil society. I think we are making a forward movement so far as peace initiative between India and Pakistan is concerned. And for that purpose, I always thought that we was doing a very honorable and very peaceful work. And there was no violence attached to it.
Professor Naeem, so tell me.
And I have been going to other conferences also, but I have never asked the organizers where from they get the money.
You don't ask. You don't ask where they get the money. You don't make any attempt to find out who they are. So tomorrow if somebody who runs an airline decides to have a Kashmir conference, I mean, you would have no qualms going there. The credentials of the person don't matter.
The question is, what are the intentions of the conference? If it is going against any country, then I will think over it again. But if I think that it is bringing people together and trying to build up confidence,
if the ISI openly says ISI seminar in Islamabad on Kashmir, you will go there.
If it is meant to bring India and Pakistan closer and resolve Kashmir issue, I should have no problem for that.
Even if it's an ISI seminar. If the captions
even if it is IB, even if it is RAW, even if it is ISI, even if it is CIA, if they are going to do a good work, bringing people together, ending hostilities, I think there should be no problem. And you, as an Indian, should not actually take India towards an authoritarian state. You should uphold the greatest democratic ideals.
May I ask you, Professor Hamida Naeem,
expression.
Professor, may I just ask you, just curious, when you attended this conference, can you share details of what you shared?
I'm not able to hear you properly.
Can you hear me, Professor? Professor Hamida Naeem, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can
My
hear you.
question to you is, can you please share with our viewers in what detail did you expose when you went for the conference which was funded by the ISI, the gross human rights violations in POK? In what detail did you speak about them? Can you share a paper right now maybe with us?
It must surprise you. It must surprise you that the invitation which I got for FISOP, the first premise was let us go beyond blame game and try to find a peaceful resolution of problems.
No, I am asking
and I have
you,
not actually tried to do whatever you are asking me to do.
I am asking you
whenever
because,
I have gone outside India, I have talked about peace initiatives. Whenever I have highlighted human rights violations that I have done in Kashmir or in Delhi, but not outside India.
Well, because, I'm just asking, I was just curious. Because, POK, Gilgit and Baltistan have been described as black holes in today's modern world in terms of human rights. I just wanted to know whether what you spoke about them. It appears you didn't say anything about them. You only focused on what's happening on the Indian side. Maruf, your response in this present situation tonight? Because Professor Hamida Naeem says, I'll go to any seminar.
No, Arnab, there are several interesting dimensions to this. The first is what Professor Hamida Naeem herself alluded to in her comments just now, in which she talked about the authoritarian regime in India. By many accounts, the regime, even in POK and in the Northern Territories, is equally authoritarian. When a country... Now, hold it, Professor Naeem, you've had your say, now let me complete. Now, the point is that if we are not talking of blame game, then she started off by a sentence in which she blamed India for authoritarianism. More importantly, if you look at POK and the Northern Territories of Pakistan...
When you are silent,
hold it, you've had your say, Mrs. Naeem. Yes. You've had your say, you have let the other person speak. Okay. You are an academic, so respect another person's opinion. The second point that I want to make, that even people from the Indian side who have been participating, intelligence agencies in India tell me that Mr. Fai's credentials were suspect all along. And it's a larger question I wish to raise in the case of Mr. Dilip Patgaonkar, who is now part of the interlocutor team. And if he was appointed by the government to be an interlocutor and the government knew that Fai's credentials were suspicious, which Mr. Patgaonkar also attended his seminars, then I don't know what the Indian government was doing. The third point that we need to understand is that ISI is clearly an arm of the Pakistan Army and the establishment, and they need to keep the bogey of Kashmir alive. So if somebody does it for them by proxy, it is good psychological warfare. My question is, if India knew about it, had it alerted the United States? If the United States was alerted, why is the US now clamping down on the man? Clearly, it's an indication of things between Washington and Islamabad having gone from bad to worse, whether it is the Raymond Davis case, Osama bin Laden case, or now the Americans telling Pakistan that we're going to stop funding you. So I think there is a larger issue of relationship which is going sour, and Fai's arrest is an indication of that.
Shabnam Lone, is there a fear in Kashmir that today it is Fai and tomorrow it will be the Hurriyat, which also receives a lot of money from Pakistan?
Well, Arnab, I am not a spokesperson for the Hurriyat.
No, just a view.
I am not a member of the Hurriyat conference. My father, my slain father, Abdul Ghani Lone, was an executive member of the Hurriyat conference, and that's the association I have had with Hurriyat. But as a Kashmiri, as a citizen, I would like to say that I really find myself precariously tilted in a deep crevice, that is Jammu and Kashmir, between India and Pakistan. Now, see a situation, Arnab. If I, as Shabnam Lone, would have been invited by Fai, I've never been to any conference because I don't attend these conferences, I would have been immediately dubbed as a separatist. I would have been dubbed as an extremist. But the Glitterati Club, the think tank from India International Center, which has been going to his conferences very regularly. Now, they say we are the analysts, and if Kashmiris attend it, we are the extremists. So the question is, where do I go?
I don't draw that line. I don't think anyone's drawn that line, Shabnam Lone. I think you are misplaced there.
No.
Because everybody is also questioning.
Listen,
you just heard Maruf question somebody who attended.
Listen to me.
Not from Kashmir.
No, this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. So the question is, where do I go? As a Kashmiri, where do I see myself? Watched closely by the ISI.
Shabnam,
watched keenly by RAW.
No, Shabnam, what we said
and
yes.
across the Himalayas. China is watching me. Where do I go, Arnab?
I'm not.